apologize for that. But those of you who have seen me speak before know what's about to happen. Now that you've gotten really settled in, I'd like you to stand up. Okay. And so, can you close the door, please? Okay, I promise you this will be worth it. Okay. So I want you to close your eyes. Okay, close your eyes. Take a nice big inhale, nice big deep breath. And oh, that's good. Another big inhale. Big exhale. Another nice breath in. Yeah, for that kind of day. So keep your eyes closed. Just take some regular breaths, okay? And just feel your feet on the ground and just let the stress of the day roll off of you. And just leave all your stuff outside the room. Leave all of your titles outside the room, whether it's a job title or title mother, boyfriend, wife, husband, daughter, friend, aunt. Leave that title outside the door. Take another big inhale. And just get quiet, centered. Just regular breath. Settle in the body. Stretch your shoulder. Neck if you need to. And ready, you can slowly open your eyes. All right, you guys are ready to go, I can tell.
Are you only you being filmed?
Yes, only me, yeah. And then, yeah, Facebook Live. Hi, Facebook Live, everybody. Much better, right? So I always like to say, take nothing else from my talk today, is to remember to breathe, okay? So it doesn't take a lot of time, it doesn't take a lot of energy, right? But did you feel the difference before and after? Yeah. Right? Especially when we're like running around and things are a little crazy out in the world or in our lives. We just need to take time to check in with ourselves, and by checking in with ourselves, we're going to feel what we feel, what we're feeling. We're going to maybe hear what we're thinking a little bit better, and we're going to, there's all physiological things that happen when you do that. Lowers your stress, cortisol, adrenaline, all those things go down so that we can just be calm, right? And I also like to recommend when you wake up in the morning, right? 15 minutes. If you can't do 15 minutes, do 10 minutes. If you can't do 10 minutes, do 5 minutes. Just breathe. Okay? Maybe just have your cup of coffee or cup of tea. Just connect with yourself. Be quiet. Maybe you have a prayer or a mantra. Maybe you just have some soft music. Just quiet with yourself. Right? So that you gain control of your time and your energy. If you set an intention for your day. And then you move forward, okay? And then when you come home, so in the evening, in your transition, same thing, although it's a little different, right? So when you're waking up, you're setting an intention for the day, you're sort of getting clear, and you want to be in control. Now you've gone out, you've had a whole crazy day. So now you want to come home, and you want to recheck in, you want to reset again, you want to process the day, let the stress of the day go. So, same thing, I like to do it in the evening, I like to lay on my back with my knees up. And I do lots of things, and I find they feel good, they feel right, and then I find out there's science that backs this up, and it has something to do with regulating your nervous system and resetting that. So, again, if you can't do 15 minutes, do 10 minutes. If you can't do 10 minutes, do 5 minutes. But make the intention to check in with yourself, and then you have those two anchors in your day, and I'm telling you that will change your life. That will change your life. We're talking about authentic branding today. By the way, is anyone here thinking this is like corporate branding or like branding for your business or anything like that? Because I hope you read the description. But maybe you're supposed to be here anyway. So this is about being who you are, and that by being who you are, that's gonna make you successful in every area of your life, and that becomes essentially your brand. This is not business branding, okay? But by doing those two anchors, that's a way for you to check in with yourself, because I find that a lot of people don't even know who they are, don't even know what they're thinking, don't even know what they're feeling, or what you want. So how could you really communicate that to anybody else if you don't know it? So that's sort of a way to give yourself a foundation to move forward, and we'll talk about lots of different other ways to do that. So I always like to sort of find out who's here. Well, actually, no. First, I like to congratulate you for being here, because first of all, it's been a pretty crappy day today. So I really, really appreciate you taking the time to come here. But obviously not for me, but for you, for yourself. So by you taking the time and the energy and making the effort to get yourself here and sitting in this chair, that really says a lot about your commitment to yourself, and that you're ready to make some changes and to improve your life. So I just want to really give you like a lot of kudos for that. I know it's a holiday also for some people, but really, and thank you Facebook people who didn't make it. It's okay. I'm glad you're here too. But you guys are here, and so just that mere action is going to already help shift you. And so hopefully I'll be able to share some things to help you think about your life a little bit differently, think about yourself a little differently, and give you some ways to really be your best and to express your fullest and best potential. So, I think it's really funny, because I've been speaking at the library this is my 9th year. I give like several talks a year, and when they asked me, they gave me this date, and I was like, yeah, I'm not sure what title I'm going to do. I sort of rotate. Who are you? What are you supposed to be doing with your life? Staying motivated throughout the job search. Stepping stones for success. And then this talk, the authentic branding talk. And I've done a couple other ones. But I said to Marzana, who programs here, I said, yeah, I'm not sure which one I'm going to do. So lo and behold, I kind of forgot about it, and she just made an executive decision and picked this title. So I always think I said, well, maybe that's what the universe wants me to talk about today. And this was like maybe a month or two ago. And I just think the timing is very interesting, and I think it is very appropriate. And so there's never any accident. And I'll make that correlation in a minute. But so it's the fall, and so it's a change of seasons, and so it's a time where things are sort of going in and sort of shedding, right? The leaves are shedding. So I would like to equate that to sort of shedding your past persona, letting go of all, the things that maybe weren't really who you are, weren't authentic to you. So just like the trees and things are you're sort of shedding to be reborn in the spring. Think about it like that. It's also, it is a Jewish holiday today, and so Yom Kippur, who don't know, is a holiday about atonement and forgiveness. And we're going to talk a little bit about forgiveness, but forgiveness ultimately is about letting go. So I also want to just correlate that to letting go of the past, letting go of what doesn't serve you anymore, letting go of grievances and grudges that are preventing you from moving forward, especially towards yourself, and we'll talk about that. And then also the very interesting timing is what's happening right now in our country is a little wackadoo, and there's a lot of lies and dishonesty and what's truth, what's not true, what's transparent, what's not transparent, and I think I believe that social transformation is a result of personal transformation, that the macrocosm reflects the microcosm and vice versa. So what's happening with individuals is reflected in the collective, and vice versa. So I just want to point that out to you to think about, what is this situation up here that maybe you have no direct relationship to? What is that telling us about our society and how we think about ourselves, and how are we honest with ourselves? Are we honest with each other? How are we deceiving or deluding ourselves or each other? Right? So I just sort of think it's really interesting, the moment in time that we find ourselves, and if you come to my other talks, if you listen to my other talks, you know, I've always been saying we're living in these very extraordinary times, like really extraordinary times. I don't need to tell you that. You can turn on the TV or look at Twitter or something like that. But, you know, we're really living in extraordinary times, and so everything is changing, externally, right? All structures, institutions, a planet, you know, everything is changing. And so the only way that you can really deal with it, because we can't control all of these things, right? You can only control what you can control. And so if you're feeling a little unstable, a little insecure, a little overwhelmed with what's going on, the one thing that you can do is find security and stability in and of yourself. And, you know, talking about job search and navigating your career, this is all going to come into play, and we'll talk about that as well. But this is really about knowing who you are, you know, what are your strengths, skills, passions, interests, talents, like what do you bring to the table, and trusting yourself, and trusting that the decisions that you make today are going to get you to wherever you're going to be tomorrow. Because you cannot control what's happening outside. You can only do your best, right? There's a great saying, do your best, surrender the rest. And so instead of blaming, like everything, like the economy, the government, the weather, whatever it is, you know, it's about taking responsibility and really giving yourself the opportunity to shine and to really make the changes that you needed to make. Because how many of you here are in career transition, or are you in between? Because I know this is for job search, so how many people? So most of you, or yeah, actually most of you. So, you know, what I like to remind you or ask you is if the last job that you had that you were either laid off or fired from, like, did you really want to be there? If you're honest with yourself, most people are like, I didn't want to be there anyway. So this is really an opportunity for you to make the changes that you know that you needed to make all along. Right? That you maybe were too scared, too comfortable, you know, too afraid to make on your own, so you just kind of like kept going, complained, whatever. But then, you know, at some point, the universe is going to kick you in the butt. So you're like, no, time for you to change. So if you can reframe also what your situation is, I think it's really helpful. And so instead of feeling bad about yourself or being unemployed or in transition, look at this as a really great opportunity to do a refresh, to do a redo on your life, and to really get yourself more aligned with who you are and what you want to accomplish, and what kind of experiences that you want to have, so that, you know, you can move forward in a way that even with all this crazy change, you feel good about yourself, right? And you can take the opportunities when they come, because those opportunities might not even exist today, but because you've done the work on yourself and you may be taking this other sort of crooked path, when the right opportunity comes, you're going to be ready to meet it. Does that make sense? I tend to ramble, so just bear with me. I always have a point, but sometimes it takes me a while to get there. So, anyways, okay, so let me just make sure I'm touching on all these things. So, yeah, because it's just also like, you know, you just want to, the word integrate is really important right now, too. So, you know, in all the different aspects of your life and how you've been going along, often I find that people are very fragmented, or they compartmentalize parts of themselves, and we're done with that. Because we need people to be whole. We need people to be integrated, right? Because when you're whole and integrated, then you can express the highest and best version of yourself. But if you're hiding parts of yourself, if you're repressing parts of yourself, if you're not expressing your talents, if you're not pursuing your passions, then we're missing out. We're missing out on your talent. And also, what I talk about in my other talk is that we're missing out on you bringing your whole self, your whole healed self to the room. Because I always talk about, you know, there's everybody, we're contagious, right? So if you have, if you're around a person who's like a negative Nelly or a really toxic person, do you feel that energy? Right? It's like you feel it. And conversely, if you're around someone that's like, has really good energy, is really happy, you feel that, right? So we have to take responsibility for being the most fulfilled, peaceful, centered. Nothing can be perfect, by the way. Like, I'm not saying like, utopia, but you can operate at a level where you bring peace to the room wherever you go. You can bring peace. You don't want to add to the chaos or to the negativity, but you bring positivity and peace wherever you go. And the way you do that is taking responsibility for yourself, for your own energy, for your own thoughts, for your own talents. And so that's why I think this is a super important topic in general, but especially now, because of so much craziness that's happening in the world. We need like as many people as possible to get their you-know-what together. Right? Because we all have a job to do, and so it's up to you guys to figure out what that job is. Because we all have our own little sphere of influence, so when you know who you are and what you're supposed to be doing with your life, that means you're doing your job and you're contributing, make the planet a better place for everybody. You guys, did you get that? So, okay, yeah. So what did I write here? Okay, yeah, so, right, and because then also this time that we're living in a social media and just media in general, there's so much distortion going on and smoke and mirrors, and it's like what's real, what's not, and also observe how you respond when you encounter someone that's just super authentic. It's like an exception, right? It's not normal for people to be just that comfortable in their own skin and that transparent and that straightforward. Like what you see is what you get. And social media is this whole other animal that we'll probably talk about a little bit more. But I think it's adding because now we're living almost more virtually than in real life. Does it feel like that to you guys? So we have to be very careful. We have to take back our humanity and own our realities, not this like virtual thing that's going on over here. It's a little wackadoo time that we're living in. So okay. So authentic. What does authentic even mean? Just some definitions. Undisputed origin, genuine, real, bona fide, true, veritable, the real McCoy, right? The real thing, kosher. Okay. Or made or done in the traditional or original way, or in a way that faithfully resembles an original, based on facts, accurate or reliable. And I had to do this. Oh wait, and then existential philosophy, relating to or denoting an emotionally appropriate, significant, purposive, and responsible mode of human life. Everybody again. So in existential philosophy, the definition is relating to or denoting an emotionally appropriate, significant, purposive, and responsible mode of human life. So it's life, right? It's being authentic. And then I couldn't resist, so I couldn't resist, and I looked up the actual definition of impeachment. And we know what it means politically, right? But I was like, I want to know what this word really means. And you know what the definition is? The action of calling into question the integrity or validity of something. Ooh, so yeah, so that's what I was saying at the beginning of the class. This is a reflection, like what's going on here. Okay? What is going on here? So, because if you're clear with yourself, if you're not clear with yourself, you can't see when others aren't being clear with you, right? And so it's this weird dynamic that's going on. Anyway, okay. So why are these concepts important? Like, why should you be authentic? Okay, so a couple of points. So one, personal fulfillment. So what do I mean by that? I mean that like when you figure out who you are, what you're supposed to be doing, accept who you are, be comfortable in your own skin, you just move through life with a little bit more ease. Right? So think about when you have to like front right? Or put a mask on. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot more energy to not be yourself. Like think about times when, like I used to teach like a long time ago. I was asked to teach undergrad for NYU, and I was not necessarily, I had no PhD, I had a BA, and I was very, I had an idea of what I thought a professor was, because I said, what are they supposed to call me? She said, oh, they're supposed to call you professor. I'm like, I just have a BA, and and to me a professor was like, had a PhD and had a tweed jacket and smoked a pipe, right? Like, and I was very young and not much older than the students and had, no degree and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I had a bachelor's, but anyway, so I thought I had to be a certain way, right, in the classroom because I was like a professor, and it was sort of didn't go very well until I said, this is ridiculous, I'm just gonna be myself. And then once I started being myself, then they, then it kind of clicks. It kind of works much easier, and it's a lot less energy, right? So, and it's also about when you align yourself with who you are, what you want, what makes sense for you. Look, especially with work, because work is what we do most of the time, right? 95% of our, well, not 95, it depends. But most of your waking hours when you're employed is spent working. So if you're not aligned and happy and fulfilled, and again, nothing's perfect, so I'm talking about 80-20, but 80% of the time is always going to be stress and annoying and blah, blah, blah. So if you're not together for, like aligned with what you're doing, because that's how you're spending most of your time and your energy, if you're not doing that, you're going to be miserable. It's going to affect your health, it's going to affect your relationships. I mean, imagine if everyone in here, or everybody, just let's say everybody was fulfilled, right? Everybody figured out who they are, what they're supposed to be doing, was nice, was peaceful, had, good communication skills, all of that. Think about how much more pleasant your subway ride would be, right? Think about how much less divorce there would be. Think about how much less crime there would be, okay? Like, this is, like, important stuff. And it takes effort and it takes work, and we're not taught it necessarily. So that's why, it's just dysfunction leading dysfunction generally. So why is it important? So for personal fulfillment. It kind of greases the way, because if you're just comfortable with who you are, then you just trust yourself, and that makes all the difference, right? When you're not doubting or wondering or relying on other people's approval for who you are, that's giving away your power, essentially. Okay, so the second reason why you should, why this is important, why you should be authentic, is technology. Okay, so again, like, this is really changing us. This is really changing us. And you hear about the robots and automation and all of that. But again, between the online, the virtual reality, the social media, certainly we don't even know how that's affecting our brains, but we know how it's affecting our relationships, right? We know how it's affecting about the way you feel about yourself when you see someone having like this great life, which, by the way, they're not posting when they're crying on the bathroom floor. But we trick ourselves into being like, oh my God, like, when my, like, then you feel like a loser. But it's all this like illusion. Yes, we all have great high lights and high moments, and we have our our rough times too. We're just not posting about them. So Ken Burns, I think, has a great quote. He says, virtual reality is to reality what reality television is to reality. So I'll say it again. Virtual reality is to reality what reality television is to reality. Right? So you gotta remember this. You have to remember this. It's so easy to be tricked and fooled by it. So again, when you can really be connected to yourself in a way that you're not as influenced by that stuff, because you know who you are, what you are, and you have a very healthy sense of self, and you can have a healthy appreciation from a high point in someone else's life. And not judge yourself or compare yourself as a result. We're going to talk about that because that's like the worst. But it's also one of the hardest things to do, I would say. And so, like I said, and then we're also, because of like this virtual kind of world that we're living in, we're craving authenticity, right? We're craving it. And when we see it, it's like a breath of fresh air, right? So, let's all take responsibility to bring more oxygen to everybody. And it's also, when it's also like, when we get so, not numb, but so disconnected from what's real and this virtual thing, it's like we need such extreme examples of emotion or violence to even let us feel something, right? And we call it, I call that, or I don't call that, I think Brene Brown calls that emotional porn, right? Because everything is so like glamorized and glossed over, and we just, to feel something, it's got to be this like, I don't know if that's making sense to you guys, but anyway, so okay, number 3, why is this important? Why should we be authentic? Like I said before, because we all have a job to do. So you guys, every single person sitting here, and you are all unique creatures. Okay, you all have a unique set of skills, abilities, talents, experiences, physical characteristics that are not like anybody else on the planet. And that's kind of mind-boggling if you think about it. But you are unique, period. And so I believe that you have a job that only you can do. So your job is to figure out what that job is. That's it. Because, look, the world needs a lot of help. And so we all got to chip in. So what are you going to do? It's not just about donating to this person or that person, or volunteering once a week or something like that. No. You have a job to do. So what is that job? And that's my talk for what are you supposed to be doing with your life. But the first step in that is again, figuring out who you are. Right? And what's authentic to you, not what has been imposed by you, or what you think you should do, or what your family told you should do, or what your friends are doing. What about you? What about you? So a fourth point in terms of why is this important and why you should be authentic is connection. Connection and kindness. Because you can't be authentic and connected with yourself. It's really hard to be connected and authentic with another person. So I think this is really self-love. If you do a little plug for my social media, check out my Instagram today. I posted about this, about self-love and forgiveness. It's like if you can't forgive yourself, if you can't love yourself, it's gonna be nearly impossible to truly connect with another person, and to truly love another person, to truly have another person love you. And whether that's a very personal kind of relationship, or just with someone that you're sitting next to today, to be friendly with, you can make a connection, a human connection with, to bring back our humanity. And so I think I just actually had a client this week, and who may or may not be here. You don't have to identify yourself. And he was getting interviews, but he wasn't getting past the interviews. And I've been coaching for over 12 years now, and so very quickly I perceived, even to me, he was kind of BSing me a little bit. And I could tell, like, he was trying to project a certain kind of person, or tell me certain things and not other things, and leaving things out. I'm like, well, what's going on here? And the thing is, it's like, and that comes from a lack of self-acceptance, right? Or thinking there's something wrong with what you did or who you are. So that's why you got to work on that, and then trust that that's enough. so that when people see you and they interact with you, they accept you. And if they don't, oh well, they're lost. And so in his interview, and it was funny because when I was talking to him, he realized, first of all, he's like, oh yeah, you're calling me out, right? And I said, you probably get very far on sort of your charm, which in a sort of more negative bent is kind of manipulation, right? You're manipulating people in a situation, okay? Which might work for a minute. It might work for a minute, but it's never going to end well, and it's never really going to be the right fit and connection. What's it? And I was like, oh yeah. And then he realized when he was not truthful in some of his other interviews. So I said, either people are going to buy the BS and it's going to backfire at some point, right? Or they're just going to have a funny feeling about you and they don't know why, and he's just not going to get the job. And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, like the other times when I didn't, I don't know if he said he lied, but when he didn't tell the truth about certain things, it didn't work. And when he did tell the truth, it just kept going. It was like, okay, fine. They moved on. So my point is, honesty is always the best policy, is my point. And what I mean by that is honesty with yourself, and therefore honesty with other people. Because if you can't be honest with yourself, again, it's going to be hard to be honest with other people. And when a person is sitting with you, either they have a good BS detector, so they'll be like, all right, this person is like BS, whatever. Or they're going to get suckered into it. Or they're just going to have a weird feeling, right? You ever meet someone and you just have a feeling and you can't put your finger on it, but it just, something just doesn't feel off. And so even though they might not be conscious of it, they're picking up your BS anyway. So this is why it's just really helpful. And this applies to all sorts of things. So whether you're in a job interview, whether it's in your family dynamic, whether it's with your friends, or obviously with personal relationships. You don't want to get into a relationship with someone that's not being their true self. I mean, yeah, fine, when you're dating or something, we all put on a little bit better version of ourselves, but the sooner you can be super authentic, the better you'll know what's going on, right? And you can make informed decisions about things. So yeah, so I think it's super important, and that might be just where your work has to be, is just the self-acceptance, right? And with this particular person, we didn't go into it, but I think he had messed around in his youth or whatever. He did maybe some stupid things, as we all do, and it's like, but you know what? He worked really hard. He's not that person anymore, right? So you're not the person, hopefully, who you were 20 years ago, or if you are, you're just a better version of yourself. So so it's just really, accepting, your past is your past and your present every day is a new day, and accepting how far you've come. So okay, so the fifth reason why this is important, why you should be authentic, like I said before, is just the collective, right? Society, democracy is at stake. Okay, so we have a crisis in authenticity, and in groupthink. So again, because of media and social media, and 5 million things coming out, it's easy to get caught up in the group thing, the mob mentality. But what do you think? What's your opinion? How do you see things? What's your analysis? Really important, to take the time to see what it is that you're thinking or feeling. And excuse me for 1 second. Sorry. Sorry, that's a YouTube thing. Okay, so it's okay. We still have an hour. It just occurred to me. I'm like, let me stop this. This is the world that we live in. So I can post things on my social media. I have to have it a certain way. So forgive the interruption. But okay, so we have extreme ideologies, we have very loud voices, we have very tunnel vision kind of us, them, and we need gray, We need dialogue, we need people with original thought, we need people that have their own opinions and have the courage to speak those opinions in a very measured, balanced way. So again, if you don't have that connection to yourself, if you don't have those anchors like I talked about at the beginning of the class, if you don't have your own thoughts and your own feelings about things, how can you contribute to that conversation? I know this is a little heavy, sorry, but I think this is the time that we're at. And I don't think there's any accident that you guys who you are, I say this a lot, like there's no accident that you are who you are at this particular moment in history. You're not 12, and you're not 89. I don't think anybody's in here. Okay? Right? You guys are full-fledged adults living in one of the most prosperous countries and cities in that country. Okay? No accident. No accident. So why the heck are you here? And what's your job? And how are you going to contribute to making this country and the world a better place? Like, there's no joke. It's no joke. And it's bigger than just finding a job, in my opinion. Clearly. Sorry if anyone came for a job search. But you're here for, somehow you got here, so you got to trust in that. So, okay, so who are you? So a lot of times, so as a coach, sometimes I work with people, I'm like, what do you like? But people don't even know the answer to those questions because you've been so conditioned in other ways that you don't even know who you are, what you think, what you like, what you want to do. And so, let's say you met a stranger and you wanted to get to know that person, what should you do? You date them. Okay, so I always recommend that you date yourself. And dating yourself does not mean sitting on your couch, drinking wine, and binging Game of Thrones. That's, maybe you need to do that once in a while, but that's not quality time with yourself. So what I mean is take yourself to dinner, go to a movie, you get to choose the movie, you go on a trip, a day trip, go away with yourself. Like, spend time with yourself. It's getting a little colder, but outside, you can spend some time in a park. A great thing to do is if you have a journal and a pen. So this is not journaling. This is not journaling. Okay, this is journaling. Is there something physiological that happens? Again, you can Google it. I don't know the science. I don't need to because I know it works. But this is like a way to process your thoughts and your feelings. So like your journal becomes your best friend in a sense, right? You get to like talk to yourself with the journal and think things out and process things out. And that's a way to get to know yourself and to feel more connected to yourself. So if you're not doing that, I highly recommend that. Because the thing is too, it's like we have so many outside influences telling us who we are or should be. So obviously a family influence is hugely influential. So, and it's not even just family, right? So it's your ethnicity, it's your culture, it's your gender, there's so many influences that give us our identity that may or may not be true. I mean, obviously they're all true, but, what parts of them have you integrated them? Are they true for you really? How are they authentic for you, or have you been able to integrate them authentically? So what I mean by that is like, well, if you're an Asian person, you can't not be an Asian person, right? That's just who you are. I'm 6 feet tall. I can't not be 6 foot tall. So you can't change those things. But so for me, I always say this, nobody believes me, but I'm actually an introvert. And always want to be in the background. I used to produce events and things like that. So I was always like behind the scenes. So the fact that I'm up here talking to you, I can't really hide. It's hard physically, it's hard for me to hide. So there's a reason why I have this human suit, so to speak. Okay? Like there's a reason why I have this particular human suit. so that I can learn and develop a certain aspect of myself. Okay? Can't change that. Like, can I accept it and integrate it? That's part of the work. But there's a reason why you are who you are, all those different aspects, and there's also things that you might have absorbed that are not you. So what are your peers doing that makes sense for you or not? Or did you just do stuff because they were doing it? Are you just doing things or thinking about prosperity and success because that's what your parents told you prosperity and success was? I will give you an example, which I haven't used in a while. So yeah, if you've been watching me for a while, you haven't heard this one in a while. But I used to say it all the time. So my parents, okay? My parents' idea, their ideal for me, growing up, this is all I heard growing up. Marry rich and marry a nice Jewish doctor. And I'm not even Jewish, by the way, clearly. I didn't hear it down before. So, but think about that. Like, it's not a joke. Like, they genuinely thought, for me, I live on Long Island, that their idea of prosperity and success for me would be to marry a nice Jewish doctor, have a nice house on Long Island, have the kids, and do that whole thing. They genuinely thought, like, that was their only wish for me. That could be farther from my life right now. And what I was nothing that I was interested in. So, now, if I didn't do the work on myself and develop and all of that, it'd be very easy to try to please my parents or to just adopt what they thought was successful. Does that make sense? Which a lot of people do. So to break away from that, and both of them are gone, so thanks to God. They laugh now. So, so to break away from that takes a bit of courage, right? Especially if your culture is a certain way, and all your peers are doing living life a certain way. To break away from that takes some courage, but it takes some self-knowledge, and then it takes the self-acceptance, and the self-love, and then the courage to pursue that and be that person. But like we talked about before, life is easier. It might be harder initially to break off and to start to become who you are, right? That might be harder, but then once you are that person, then you can just sort of live your life. So actually, and I have another example. And those of you who heard my talk last month, I think last month I talked about this. You guys know who Martine Rothblatt is? Right, which is crazy. Everybody should know who this person is. Martine Rothblatt, she started Sirius XM Radio. You guys know Sirius XM Radio? Mm-hmm. Found her. Figured out how to do satellites and all this stuff. She was always interested as a kid. She was interested, apparently, in creating like terraforms, like on other like on the moon or Mars, right? Like habitats. Like that was what she sort of dreamed about as a kid. And anyway, so she's interested in astronomy, and she became a lawyer. I don't know. Somehow the whole satellite thing came up, and she figured out how to do it and raised like $22 billion to start this company in 1990 something. I mean, really, it's kind of miraculous. And then, in the midst of that, she always felt that she was, at the time, she was Martin Rothblatt. And at the time, Martin always felt like he was a woman. In the middle of trying to launch Sirius satellite XM Radio. And so, with the support of his wife, he made the transition, and he's now Martine. And he did that in the middle, and what she said was that there was, every time she was, out with the guys, right? Because you're raising money, you're trying to set up this company, you're trying to convince people about satellites so that everybody can communicate, all this stuff. Dealing with FCC, radio didn't want it to happen. I mean, this is like big stuff. And she said, your brain uses so much energy. So when she was at these like networking things and business meetings, she had to do all this mental gymnastics to not be who she was, right? And so once she decided to come out as a trans woman, she had so much more energy, she said, like physical energy, to get all this stuff done. And then guess what happened? So then her daughter, they discovered that she has a terminal illness, some sort of a lung. I don't know what it is. It's a very, very rare, very, very rare. So rare that nobody was trying to figure out how to cure it. So they're like, yeah, sorry, she's got 3 to 5 years. And the kid was like 10 or something. So now, this person, Martine, who has never even took biology, I don't think, in high school, is trying to figure out a cure for this disease. And when her kid was in the hospital, would go to the hospital library, read like a gazillion books and get all that, the library, get whatever, all different levels, like college, all different levels of biology and try to synthesize and all this stuff. And basically said, I want to create a medicine for this thing. Found out that one of the drug companies, I forget which one, had discovered something that was kind of working, but there weren't enough people in the world for them to do more research and development on it for them to be profitable. Right? So meanwhile, his kid can do this. So anyway, so he goes to them. He's like, well, okay, can I give you money and can you do it? And they're like, yeah, no, it doesn't work that way. And then so I think eventually they're like, the only thing you can do is you go start your own company. You can license the formula or whatever it is from us. So he's like, okay. And so it was she at that time, sorry. So basically, she went and got together a bunch of things, blah, blah, blah. Make a long story short, she's, I think, the highest paid pharmaceutical company. They've saved thousands of people's lives, including additional diseases. And then they realized, oh, well, the medicine is not working, but people need lung transplants if the medicine doesn't work. And so she's working on creating artificial lungs, which have saved some lives. But then they're like, oh, but to get to the lungs and to people, it's too much, it's creating too much pollution in the environment. I'm going to create an electronic helicopter. So she's creating an electronic, I'm telling you, this stuff is crazy. And she has this whole other project where she wants to preserve consciousness like on digital files. I'm telling you. So my whole point of that is Google Martine Rothblatt. But also, do you see, like, she just is who she is. And all that energy when she wasn't herself, obviously being a trans person is maybe one of the most extreme forms of being authentic or not authentic, right? And having to go through that process. But the amount of energy that it was sucking from her, think about what we would not have in the lives that would not have been saved if she didn't let go of that and be who she was. That's a huge example, but it's applicable to everybody. Okay? So, if you go on my Instagram, actually, you can see a picture of me and Martine Rothblatt. Sent to me. Yeah. So, and then I just recently found out, this is really cool. So, and also your weird, quirky things, like the things that you think are weird or annoying, they're always going to be your biggest strengths. So I have such a great example that I just found out about. You guys know who Bob Fosse is? Mm-hmm. Bob Fosse, very famous choreographer. Very specific style, correct? Mm-hmm. Right? All that jazz, Chicago, blah, blah, blah. So I just learned, like, he was a dancer and he was prematurely balding. Not a good look, right? For a young dancer, young Jew dancing. And he was hunchbacked. So instead of giving up his dream to be a dancer, he created a whole look. Right? With a hat and the rounded. He created a whole career based on the things that were weird or not conventional. Isn't that fabulous? I just learned that. It's a great thing. And even have you guys watched the Bill Gates documentary on Netflix? Bring Bill. So he's fascinating, obviously, for a lot of reasons. But what I took away from it is just in regards to this is he, as a kid, all he loved to do was solve complex problems, right? So obviously math is a thing, but when he was, I don't know, 15 or something like that, whatever the schools, like he was at a private school, and they merged with another private school, and they're like, and this is before computers, and they're like, yeah, we can't figure this stuff out, so they asked him to figure out, right, how to merge the two schools, and how to, like, do all the student schedules. This is, like, before personal computers, like, but they, like, you go watch it, it's very cool, but this whole thing, and it was like the way that he talked about it was like, well, you can't be in this class at the same time as this one, and then certain people couldn't be in the same class. I mean, the complexity of trying to merge these schools and give them this schedule, which sounds like, okay, whatever, that was school, but he was 15 or 14, but this is what he's done his whole life, is solve huge complex problems. And now, post-Microsoft, he is basically trying to solve the sanitation problem of the world, because most people don't have toilets. So he's trying to figure out how everyone can have a toilet and how we can have sanitation all across the world. Very complex problem for a lot of reasons. You gotta watch the documentary. And he's also trying to solve the energy problem as well. But that's who he is. He's not good at a lot of other things, but he's good at trying to solve big, complex problems. That's his gift. And thank God for it, because I bet you he will figure out. Well, he already, I think, is eradicating polio. He almost eradicated polio. That's pretty complex, right? And thank God he just is who he is, and he embraced his gift, and he had the courage to be who he was, and that's it. And then we already talked about this acceptance and the loves, because what will happen is once you kind of figure out who you are and you get in touch with that, you might realize, oh, I'm very different than how I've been living, or I'm very different from my family or my peers, and so that's when the courage comes in. Oh, and also, if you're feeling blocked, that's where forgiveness comes in too. So if you can't get to that love part, you got to do the forgiveness and then do the love part. Okay, so and to love all aspects of yourself. So there's also like Lizzo. You guys know who Lizzo is? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like a revolution that is Lizzo, right? The force that is Lizzo, right? About self-acceptance and self-love. And she just posted something about, I had to learn to love all the jiggly bits, We're a very physical, visual society. And so, but you see how liberating that is, right? So she liberated herself with that self-acceptance, and in her own self-acceptance, she's liberating thousands of people. Right? So it's pretty major. Again, we all affect each other. So we all have a job to do. Maybe that was her job, right? Yeah, she makes great music, but maybe her job is really like this, like 200% self-acceptance. And in her having that 200% self-acceptance, she's giving all these other people permission. She's liberating them. So branding. Okay, so I'm going to get to some exercises here with you guys. So, like I said before, it's much easier to be yourself. Now, if you want to be Madonna or Lady Gaga or someone like that, okay, fine. There are different ways of using persona, right, as an artist or performer. That's its own thing, right? That's its own thing. My guess is that you guys probably don't fall in that category. But if you do, that's a very intentional way to create personas and brand yourself in a certain way. But I think just in life and in work in general, the more yourself you can be, then that's just your brand. Because guess what? That means you're going to end up in the right job, because people are going to see you for who you are and what you offer, and you're going to perform well, and you're going to be enthusiastic about it, and then that's going to prevent you from being laid off again, because you do a good job, you fit in the place. They'll do whatever they can to keep you from being laid off. And if you do get laid off, your reputation will have preceded you. So whoever goes wherever, they're going to remember, oh, James is really good at this, and da-da-da-da. Like, that is your brand, is just being yourself. Does that make sense? So it's not, anything that you have to manipulate or control. Like, if you're just yourself, you're yourself. Now, do we have different aspects of ourselves? Sure. I got my little artsy self, I got my silly self, right? I've got my super serious, passionate self, I got my no BS self. We've got different parts of ourselves, so you just own and embrace all of it and just express all of it in the right place, the right time, the right people, the right situation. Cool, but you're integrated. So it's just, I think, really important to, because here's the thing, what is really a brand? Okay, I'll give you a definition. It's the word actually began as a way to tell one person's cattle from another, right, by means of a hot iron stamp. That's the origin of the word. But it's continued to evolve to really encompass identity, right? So it affects the personality of a product, or company, or service. So what it is, it's defined by a perception, good or bad, that your customers or your prospects or your friends or people in general will have. The perception. So, so my suggestion is to have yourself match up with what that perception is. So we'll do a little exercise for that. So I want you right now to get rid of a pen and paper. So I want you to think about 3 adjectives, like 3 words that you would use to describe yourself. 3 adjectives that you would use to describe yourself. Just the first 3 that come to you. Don't think too much about it. 3 adjectives how you describe yourself. You can do it at home too, if you like. 3 adjectives. How would you describe yourself? First 3 that comes.
In the context of
Just whatever, just how do you think about yourself? If you had to describe yourself, how would you describe yourself to yourself? Yeah. So now, everybody done with that? Okay, so now what I want you to do is I want you to write 3 adjectives that you think people that you know would use to describe you. Okay? Family, friends, people at work. What adjectives, 3 adjectives that they would use to describe you? Again, just the first 3 that come. Adjectives that other people would describe you. Okay, so everybody good? Got 3 and 3? How many people have 3 matching the other 3? 3 out of 3. How many do you get? Not one person right there. Only one. I'm not up to that. So Facebook, nobody got 3 out of 3. Okay, how many people got 2 out of 2? 2 out of 3. 3 people out of the room was about 30. 1. Okay, a little bit more. How many people nobody matched? A lot of people. How do you feel about all of this? Anybody want to share? Yeah.
Could I say it didn't match, but it's similar?
Okay.
I can't explain. It's similar in words.
Okay. Okay. You wanna expand on that?
Let me think about it.
Okay.
Come back to
How
me.
about yes?
I was going to say along the same lines. They're not the same words, but they convey similar, they embody the same kind of theme. So it wasn't out of
Okay. Can you give an example?
For example, I had an ambitious list, leadership, and then I had like intelligent. They're all along sort of the same line. They're not vastly.
Okay. So are you happy with them?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't feel.
So who's not very happy? Who has more of a mismatch with them? It's safe in here. Whatever it is. Well, I guess it's not this way. But it's a safe space. Feel free to share. No, this is why you're here. So where is there a discrepancy? Thank
I'll be
you.
brave.
Thank you for being brave.
Describing myself, I put passionate, but how others would see me and be bossy.
Ooh.
That kind of sucks.
Is that the first time you kind of realized that?
It's the first time that I put it on paper, you know, so it makes it real.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always thought it, you know.
What are the other adjectives? Can I ask?
One's loving, for describing myself, loving, fun, passionate. Others, fun, loud, bossy. So I'm always fun.
So,
Yeah,
how do you think? What do you think you need to do to kind of bridge that gap?
I can be a little intense. I don't know how to like authentically pull back the intensity, because that could come across as bossy, or demanding or something. Where my brain is interpreting it as just being really passionate about something, you know. But I can understand how another person would see it as, ooh, you're a little too much.
Too much. So, but you said that you loving is one of the adjectives that you give for yourself. So when you're expressing yourself in those ways, does the loving part, is that the foundation of it, or is it like a different thing where it's coming from?
No, it's loving. It's just, even the loving could be a little too much, like a little too loving.
So in thinking about so all the things that we've talked about so far, obviously you came here for a reason. So again, and thank you for being brave, thank you for sharing. Where do you think there's work to be done, or where do you think you might be stuck or not feeling very integrated?
I don't know. Trying to figure it out. I don't know.
Okay.
It's like I do a lot of the shadow work, to see where things are coming from and stuff. But then I just get to a point where it's like, okay, that's great. I have all the tools. I have all the things just that you can learn. And now what? So.
And so do you do journaling? Do you do all that stuff? Have you ever done forgiveness exercise with yourself?
Maybe not. I don't know.
Okay, and like some self-love kind of stuff?
Yeah. I do Reiki. I'm a Reiki practitioner, so I try to do that, and the meditation to calm my nervous system down. I'm of the woo.
That's why you're here. That's how you found me. So usually, and this has been a theme lately with a lot of people, so I think I'm just gonna also address it with you, is like the forgiveness piece. So even though I'm not sure how you're doing your shadow work, and so for people who don't know what that is, it's sort of like, the negative aspect, the quote unquote negative aspect. We all have light and dark within us. So the things that are not so great about yourself. So, because it's almost, so if there's like a block, it's like if there's a block of the loving coming through, it's like the self-love, even though you might be doing it, we do a lot of things intellectually. We do a lot of things from here to here. But this is really where all the action comes to happen. So we can understand things, we can know things intellectually or mentally, we can get it. We can really get it mentally and intellectually, but it's the emotionally and the spiritual part of it that really has to happen and has to then be incorporated in our bodies. And so that's why I find, one of the big problems in our world or society is that most people walk around emotionally constipated. Okay. So again, that's why you can be doing everything perfectly, but if you haven't processed it emotionally and spiritually and even physically, it's not fully embracing it.
It's not coming out.
It's not coming out, but that's why you're doing the work, but you're not necessarily getting the results that you want. You're like, now what? It's like, well, because you got it here, but it needs to happen here. And so the forgiveness, I find, is a really good tool to help you detox emotionally. So, it would be what's your name? Jocelyn. I, Jocelyn, forgive myself for, and then whatever comes up. I've got tissues nearby, by the way. Let yourself feel Like, our feelings are there for a reason. If we don't deal with them, they go someplace. So either they go to your body, they go to an illness, they go out to your relationships in nasty ways. They're gonna go someplace. So you've got to learn to process a feeling is something that happens on the spot, and emotion is something that's been stored a bit more. So if you feel your feelings as they happen, that's very healthy. In the appropriate place and appropriate time, manner. That's you just keep things moving. Emotions are stuff you've kind of stored away a bit, right? And they come up in different ways. So doing that forgiveness exercise is one way of bringing up some of that old emotional junk to look at, forgive yourself, and let it go. Again, very appropriate that we're doing this today. So really just, I encourage people, like a lot of my work is about this because we're, as a society, we're just taught not. Here, watch this program, play this video game, eat this food, drink this booze, take these drugs, work really, 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 really hard. So it's, distraction is all numbing tendencies. So if you don't deal with your emotions, you're doing other things to ignore them, and then they're getting caught someplace. And so, there's that you have to, and I get it, it can be a little scary, like nobody likes to feel sadness or shame or anger or these things, but they're a part of life, like you can't avoid it, sorry. Because like I said, if you're not dealing with it straightforward, it's doing something to you, somewhere on some level. So yeah, I just feel like that is a big tool that you can use. So forgiveness exercise, and after you do that, and really whatever comes up, always end with I love myself. I love myself, I love myself, I love it. Because think about it, like nature abhors a vacuum, right? So you're like detoxing, you're getting rid of all this stuff. And by the way, let me remind you, detoxing is not fun, right? When you are nauseous and have to vomit, like that doesn't feel good. The vomiting doesn't feel good. But you feel good after, right? Okay? So it's going to be icky and uncomfortable, and it's okay, like, because you're being conscious about it. So you feel icky, okay, and you're just going to come out, don't question it, don't freak out, and then it's gone, and you replace it with something positive. I love myself, I love myself, I love myself. I'm beautiful, I'm beautiful, beautiful. I'm confident, I'm confident, confident. I'm confident, I love who I am. Like, positive affirmations. Louise Hay, you guys know who Louise Hay is? Okay, I pretty much will recommend, You Can Heal Your Life, classic Louise Hay book, everyone should read it. I recommend that. And so the forgiveness exercise is part of her work as well. So I think for everyone, it's kind of like, if you've got that block, that's a good way to clean out the pipes a bit, and to be able to get more integrated, and then to really start to feel your feelings, and to really connect with yourself from here, not here. This is like so. And that's where, I guarantee you, if you think about the people that you know, whether mostly in real life, the celebrities are hard to tell, but but the people who you think are the most beautiful people, right? Think about someone in your life or someone that you've met that you think is a beautiful person. Chances are, it's not because of the way they look necessarily, but it's how they carry themselves, right? It's how they present themselves, it's how they embody themselves, it's how they, express themselves and take care of themselves. And that's all as a result of self-worth and integration and all those things of like really being in your body. This is another problem. I'm sort of going on that, but it's all connected. But this is such a problem that we have because, again, this takes you out of your body. This takes you out of your body. It's putting you, using this, it's bringing you someplace else. Taking it away from you. So you've got to, again, that's why this work is so important. We need to get back in our bodies. We're humans. We're not robots. We're not machines. We're humans, and part of being human is having emotions and having a physical body. It's not just mental, intellectual stuff. But Because guess what? Guess to whose advantage it is for us to just be up here and to just have our attention being taken every which way. You know, whatever boogeyman you want to put that on. Corporate, government, whatever, you know. They want your time and attention. They don't want you to be embodied and empowered. Because when you're embodied and when you're fully in your body, when you're fully feeling, knowing, thinking, expressing, that's being empowered. That's feeling, yeah, okay, I'm in control of my life. You don't want that. I'm going to manipulate you and get you to buy stuff. Or vote a certain way, or whatever. Okay, so, alright. So, anybody else, any other examples of the three adjectives, and anyone want to share their experience? Yes.
I'm inspired by the contagion of bravery here.
Yay! Let's give Jocelyn a hand, everybody. Thank you for sharing.
For myself, I put generous, loving, and listening. And for my family of choice, does not include my family of origin and cut off on. I put generous, loyal, loving, and maybe that was lost in translation or something, but that's how. Like I think of it like a personal relationship to like a colleague. Like, I might be loyal to a former colleague, but I might be loving to a former partner.
But it's hard to be loyal without having a sense of love and care, whether it's like a altruistic kind of loving care versus a
Loving
personal care.
compassion.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. But it obviously sounds like you've done some work.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a coach. I mean, I'm a.
I was just gonna say, you've obviously done some work to get to that.
Yeah, I've done a
So you're practicing
self-work. Yes.
Well, you're practicing what you preach, and just by the mere fact that you said my chosen family versus that my, and you did a lot of work. Yeah, so thank you for sharing. Anybody else?
Yeah, hi. I call myself determined. They call me stubborn. Yeah. So, I mean, especially like what I'm on now, like I'm trying to get people happier, healthier, and, we can cut taxes by 70% and, we can do it, with Medicare for all. It's actually Medicare for all, but, I'm trying to get that message across, and, they say, oh, he's crazy and stubborn.
What are the other two adjectives?
Excuse me?
What are the other two adjectives that you describe yourself?
Well, helpful and scrappy.
That's how you describe yourself? And then what are the other ones that other people? So what would they say?
It was weird.
Wait, what were the three, the perception of other people? What are the three adjectives?
Weird, different, stubborn.
So how do you feel about that?
I think most people really very enclosed in their own world and very little hope of getting them out. I mean, I'm trying.
So what I would just sort of instinctually say to you on that is, because obviously you're very passionate and you have a lot of things to say, and you've embraced your uniqueness, your quirkiness. So what I would say, because it always generally comes back to this, is like take a look at the self-love and the self-acceptance place a little bit more in a self-connection. Because if you're more connected to yourself, you'll be able to connect with other people better, and therefore you'll be able to relate to them in a way that they can receive you a little bit better. And you can maybe get through to them with the ideas that you have, but maybe just not in the way that you've been doing it. So in other words, there's something called active listening. So to be a really good listener, you have to be really connected and present with yourself, and then really, so you're not talking at someone, you're kind of talking with them and kind of trying to understand them a bit. But if you're not connected and understand yourself in a deeper way, it's going to be harder and have that connection and conversation with someone. So that's kind of what I would say. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yes.
In doing this exercise, the first 3 words that I came up with about myself didn't necessarily match the 3 words that I thought of that other people would think about me. But after hearing people talk, my realization is that a couple of them would match if I just made a list of how I think about myself and how people think about me.
What do you mean, like?
For example, people will call me determined. Okay, that wasn't one of my first 3 in terms of how I look at myself, but I realized that would be on my list. People will call me unrelenting. Yes, it's I would say yes to a certain extent.
But I would pay attention because for whatever reason, those are the 3 that popped up. So don't get in your head about it, okay? Because I gave you a very short amount of time to do that, which meant there was a short amount of time to think about it. It was what came to you initially. So just use that as a self-observation and really, because we can talk ourselves into lots of different things, lots of justification, and see if that's going to give you some information. Because you're here, there's a reason why you're here, so what's the area that you want, how do you want to sort of make those adjustments?
Yeah, well, I'm thinking about branding in terms of an elevator pitch. So
okay, did you come at the very beginning of my talk? Because I was like, that's not what this is about.
I understand that, but I'm saying I want people to consider me because I'm looking to promote myself as a management consultant. So therefore, when I'm thinking about words that are coming out and things that I want to say, I'm looking at the fact that, I want you to think about me in this way. And that's what popped into my head.
But are you that way?
Yes.
So just be that way. You don't have to try to manipulate or you know what I'm saying? Like, just be how you are, and then it will be apparent.
Okay.
You have to wrap up. One quick for my attitude about myself. I put laughing, likes to eat good food, and limpy. And then for what other people think of myself is happy, helpful, and cheerful. And I know the happy bit totally because my sister told my other sister, she said, "Oh, she's always happy," and I'm like, what? But I think why I do this is because if I let my true self come out and I complain, then I have all these family members saying, "You shouldn't be living like you're living. You should be doing this. You should be doing that." So it's like I don't want to hear that. So I've learned sort of to be fake. And how does that work for you? How does that work out for you? I just like know not to act totally myself in front of them. So you have to have boundaries and have a certain sense of self-protection, but you can be authentic with the boundary rather than pretend to be something that you're not. And also that's depriving them of perhaps really helping you, if you really need some help in some level, or compassion, just compassion. Like, again, it's the connection thing. If you want to feel more connected to them, how are they going to do that if you're pretending you're sort of this thing over here and you can't connect with something that's not authentic? Does that make sense? They're literally going to kick us out. Just hold those thoughts. Let me just make sure I got to whatever other points that I wanted to get to. And you guys are super special because you came to ring and you get presents. So, okay. Right, bet on your strengths. Like, Gary Vee. Gary Vee is a really great one to talk about authenticity. You guys know who this person is? Yes. Gary Vee, Gary Vaynerchuk. He's all about being authentic, and Lord knows that he is. Okay. And so I would Google Gary Vee or follow him on social media. He would be, he's very authentic. And also just, think about famous people, like other famous people like a Rachel Ray, Oprah, like the whole Oprah, like those are all, they all did really well because they just were who they were. Oprah's like, I wanted to be Barbara Walters. That didn't work out for me, so I just was myself, and that worked out kind of well. Okay? that's a good celebrity example. Even like a Rachel Ray who gets like trashed on for like not being a chef, but yet she's created this multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar maybe empire, just being herself and helping the average person, make meals and all of that. And Dolly Parton is so great. And who would think Dolly Parton's authentic, right? Yeah, go to my Instagram. I have a video of Dolly Parton. So great about her. She's so authentic that she plays with her image. She knows, but she plays with her image. And again, this is showbiz, so this is a little different. But she plays with her image to get a certain kind of attention. But when she sings, there's not one iota of her that's not authentic. And in her life and how she lives her life. And so there's a great interview with her with Barbara Walters. She's like, I know who I am. I just mess around with all you people. It's great. She's like, because I like myself. I'm secure in myself, so I can have fun with all this other stuff. Like, that's very liberating, right? To be that secure in yourself, and then you can be whatever you want to be. Have fun with it and not care what people think. And let me just make sure. Yeah. So I'm going to have to leave you your questions. I'm happy to stay. They're literally going to kick us out in a few minutes, so I just want to make sure we finish. Before I give you the last quote, let me give you this little evaluation. Let me do a little plug. So I am a coach. I'd be happy if you guys can't figure some of this stuff out for yourself, or you feel like you're stuck or blocked. That's a way that I can help you and work with you. So I have group coaching, or I have the individual sessions. All my information is passed out, and if you book within a certain amount of time, 10 days from today, you get a discount. I can talk to you about that after. I have a book here, so you can get the book. I have one copy here. It's in the library. It's on Amazon. It's about being yourself. It's my own authenticity that I didn't know I was a writer. I'm dyslexic. I don't read, and I have a book. So book me. And I'm working on my second book. So make sure you sign up for all my stuff. If you came in late, make sure you're on my mailing list, because this is when I don't know when I'm going to be back here, so that's why you got to be back on my mailing list. I'm not sure. Same thing with group coaching, so you'll know when I'm doing it. And if I do other classes and workshops. And because I also don't want you to forget, what I want you to think about is from today's talk, what's like the 1 or 2 or 3 things that you really want to remember and hold on to, because once you walk out the door, life happens. And I always like to give everyone like a little touchstone. It's that you can, so whenever you see, you can carry this around with you whenever you see it, or if you're like doing your little 15-minute anchors, you can hold it to remember what you need to remember. And
I'd like to make a compliment about it, making a compliment today. Last month I came and I was going through a death, if you remember. And yesterday I had an interview. It was very positive because I had 2 people interview me, but one person was from the company I was from. Okay, and I just want to say I apologize for coming in late because I had to stop by Stable to print some reference.
No worries.
But one thing he said, and it happened to me yesterday, to be honest with yourself and to accept the present and not the past. And I was faced with that yesterday, and I did well.
Yes.
That's all I want to say.
Yes.
And I just, if people would just leave here and just apply 1 or 2 principles that you said, things can change. Well, everything you're saying, I already know, but it's coming back to me. But I just felt the presence. I felt the whole month.
People tell me that all the time.
I
hear you in my voice, in my head.
I'm not left. It takes, so
Well,
things are starting to happen. That's all I'm gonna say.
Thank you.
And
When you went, because you were ready to receive it and apply it, and you guys, like I said, you guys got your butts here. There's a reason why you got your butt here. You're ready for change. You're ready to be better and to love yourself and to be where you're gonna be. So I always love to end this talk with a really great quote from Deepak Chopra. Now, you guys all need to know Deepak Chopra, but this is a quote when he was on Conan. Okay, he was on Conan's show late night, and he had just been to Las Vegas, and Conan was kind of making fun of him. He's like, oh, I heard you were in Las Vegas. And Deepak, picture Deepak Chopra in Las Vegas, right? It's kind of a funny thing. So. Oh, Deepak, you were in Las Vegas, and Deepak's like, yes, I was. Not weird. And Colin's like, well, but that's when you do, that's kind of weird. And he goes, oh, no. He's like, Las Vegas dead serious. Dead serious. And Conan thinks he's joking. He's like, oh, that's really funny. He goes, oh no. He's like, Las Vegas, it doesn't pretend to be anything that it's not. And therefore, it's a spiritual place on the planet. So, thank you for coming. I'm here until they kick us out. There's some articles and things that I've written, some testimonials. Up here, if you're interested in working with me one-on-one, you can sign up here or send me an email. And yes?
Where does the group coaching happen?
It happens Midtown. It's Atrium on 52nd and 3rd. But if you have to get that's why you got my email list to get all the information. And I'm sorry I didn't get to everybody, but I'm happy to talk to any of you before they kick us out. So thank you so much for coming on this night, and this is a very auspicious day that you came. I really believe that. So like my friend Michelle, right? Michelle?
Yes.
So like Michelle said, I hope that you take whatever you need to take away today to heart and apply it in your lives, and let me know how everything goes. So thank you so much, everybody. And if you want to rewatch this or share it with someone, it's going to be on the library's Facebook page, and then eventually it'll be on my YouTube page. So you can share it with anyone you think might need to listen to it. And I've got other clips in there too.
How much is your book?
$20. Or you can get it on Amazon. So it's a touchstone. It's a touchstone that I want you to just like whatever it is that you need to remember that you your aha from today, or the thing that you don't want to forget. Use it as a touchstone. Looks like a stone. So 5 and 3, go forth and cross out.
One of the things is touch toes.
No, I